joining us on BITV. We are at Cannes Palais des Festivals at MEPIM, and we are joined by Lionel Grotto, Managing Director at Choose Paris Région, and Audrey Camus, Vice President Asset Management and Development Europe at Ivanhoé Cambridge. Choose Paris Région, in partnership with Businessimo, has recently published a white paper entitled 5 Reasons to Invest in Greater Paris. As the construction of Europe's largest infrastructure project, Grand Paris Express, is underway, what are the main promises that investors can find on the Grand Paris area?
I think this edition of MIPIM is interesting because we're starting to see again visits of companies. I think it's something beginning again, not the same as before, obviously, but some changes have happened, and we'll have time to discuss that. But the promise, I think, is a city which is still, and a region which is still very dynamic, with a lot of projects, and we have a lot of prospects that maybe had delayed some investments that are taking again. We'll talk about health, but we also have decision centers with 50, 100, 150, 200 jobs, fintechs, innovative companies. So I think the promise is that of a region which is taking the challenges globally, which is dynamic, and which is offering still a lot of opportunities. As you said, in this enlarged Paris with a new image, and we know that the image that the companies offer, also the talents they hire, is very important, and they will be able to do that in new geographies. And I think that's also something very important, those geographies which will have new stories to carry.
And Ivanhoé Cambridge, obviously you are invested in the Grand Paris. What do you see as the main promises of the area?
I would say the first one, of course, would be the public transport network, which will be very efficient, very modern, and not only from the suburbs to Paris, but as well between the suburbs, which is quite important for people going to work. The second one probably would be the new mixed-use areas that we are going to develop around the most important stations of the Grand Paris. And maybe the last one would be in terms of sustainability, because of course this public transport network will avoid people coming with their own car, and then of course we will reduce collectively our carbon footprint.
Okay, thank you. And therefore, in the white paper, the logistics and healthcare sectors are identified as a particularly promising sector. What are the main fundamentals that make these sectors so attractive, do you think, in the Grand Paris area?
Audrey?
I will start. I think we could split the logistics in 2 sectors. The first one, which is the big box, the traditional logistics, I would say. Not so easy to find opportunities in the Great Paris, because of course there is not so many plot of lands to do that. And the second one, probably the most up to date today, is the last mile logistics and the urban logistics, and we are looking for opportunities today to invest in. Of course on smaller assets than on traditional logistics, but more central locations, and of course closer to the end consumer, and just to avoid trucks to come into the cities and not to pollute anymore.
Okay, and Lionel?
The region is 12 million inhabitants, so I mean in terms of the challenges that we face, it's really huge. And as Audrey said, we need all the types of assets, from big warehouses. We see new types of assets. Segro has developed for IKEA an innovative concept in Gennevilliers with a 2-stored, with a very high logistics warehouse. We see in 19th arrondissement in Paris a new concept also with logistics on the first floor, and then it's a hotel, it's a mixed use with offices and also housing. So you also mentioned the health part, and it's true that to be short, because I think we have a limited time, but for the health sector, I think we have a very strong ecosystem, but needed to be structured. We've seen a lot of big investments in the US and the UK, and now it's coming to France. I think it's our moment, and I think yesterday, you mentioned just before that, Cadence yesterday announced publicly a project we've been following for a long time in Cancer Campus, which will be linked directly to Paris, Châtelet, Saint-Lazare, with line 14 plus line 15, suburb to suburb. So these are new centers, new districts. Near there, it's also Ecotone, so it's also offices. So all this is coming it's the moment now. Before it was too early, so when it's too early, it's always frustrating, but I think now it's time. Yeah.
Okay. In terms of more traditional assets, you discussed briefly offices. Some more traditional asset classes like retail or offices have been, let's say, shaken up by the pandemic. And therefore are now rethinking their model. How do you see the Greater Paris project support this transformation? How do you see the Grand Paris helping offices and retail projects, new forms of offices and retail projects emerge?
Maybe first I would say that the pandemic has accelerated the moves that we had already, but it's not new. The flexibility, the central location, the amenities that we have to put in the buildings, etc. It was already something that the end users were requesting before the pandemic. Of course, it's even stronger now. And of course, in terms of location, amenities, it's very important that we can find where we invest on office buildings, the area and the environment, which is very active all day long, not only during the day, but also with residential, hotels, restaurants, etc. A lot of life, I would say, in the sector, very important for office occupants today. And I think that because we hear some people saying that the office market is very difficult, everybody's working from home, we don't need office anymore, etc. I don't think it's true, of course, because I think that we need to see each other, we need to work together. So probably we need to adapt the design of the office buildings to put more meeting rooms, lounge spaces, creative areas, etc. And probably to make the fit out more flexible. But I think that the office building is still alive, the market is there, and it is as well something very important for the companies to attract people for the hiring process. And in terms of image of the company, the place where they are is very important. So I think that's the positive aspect of the office market.
Public and private actors will be working together. I see a lot of people thinking. I think that's the most interesting. People that were not really interested in what their tenants were looking for are now hiring psychologists to understand what's going on. So I think it's a positive move, and what the public sector is to do is to listen a lot, and I think it's what we're doing, be it the metropolis, the regions. There are a lot of common actions that are taken. I was talking of the mayors. There are public tenders that are going on. So all we need to do is create the space for those projects to emerge, and I think there is the mindset is to have that, and we see quite interesting initiatives that are going on in various parts of the region already today, and I think more in the future.
Great. Well, obviously there is a lot of opportunities around Paris and a lot to do for investors going forward. In the meantime, thank you both for taking the time to speak with us, and thank you all for joining us, and have a good meeting.
Thank you.